Good morning, it's Cooke here, founder of The Engine and leading business advisor. And this morning I'm here with Kirit Lal, one of the directors from Wayland. And this morning we're talking about, is your business using crisis pain as crisis fuel in advance of a crisis? Good morning, Kirit, how are you today?
Good morning, Catherine. Good, thank you. Can't
Good.
complain. The rain has stopped in Auckland, so which is good.
I know. We had a crisis overnight, wind, rain, no snow in Auckland, so but it certainly was a little bit cooler. Look, Kirit, back in 2021, we were talking about business continuity, and obviously that was around that terrible topic called COVID. And what we kind of learned is, life can seemingly be going well, and then suddenly curveballs hit. I'm sure you know what I'm meaning by that. This year's brought inflation, storms, staff shortages, bank rate increases, and business owners are certainly feeling the challenges. I've certainly been encouraging business owners to turn that pain into fuel or opportunities before a crisis. What's the mood like out there from your point of view?
Yeah, Catherine, you're definitely correct. There are many different pain points at the moment with businesses, as you mentioned, inflation, natural disasters, staff shortages, adding on to that material supply shortages. The general mood amongst business owners is that this year is definitely going to be a tough year, and it's more pessimistic than optimistic. And many business owners are navigating their ways around this by managing these pain points in different ways. So, there are a lot of challenges for business owners at the moment, and the general mood seems to be that we've got to rise above the challenge and see what opportunities we get during this process.
I love how you use that word opportunities, because when you read the papers and the headlines and the clickbait, they're all talking doom and gloom and doom and gloom. And the reality is that we've been here before. We all know what this is like, and I guess as the older we get, we've seen it more than others. But it's all about adversity and building resilience. And I guess Cyclone Gabrielle, that was a huge test for business continuity plans. Threw it right out the door when you've got power that is out, but roads that are missing, and you can't reconnect power again. So for me, it's really about, being agile and responding to new threats, adapting and changing as we learn where plans won't work anymore. Would you agree with that?
Oh, very much so. These days, you got to make sure that you do have plans in place for any sort of event that could come across your business. And it's almost like it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when it's going to happen. So you've got to be really front-footing the problems and making plans in advance. So, what happens when there's an earthquake tomorrow and you can't get into your own factory? What happens when there's cyclones and bridge are closed, when there's high winds and you can't get into the other side of the bridge? All those sort of business continuity items are very much a natural thing these days, and every business needs to make sure that they take that into account in order to ensure that they still continue on in business and they still keep paying the bills and make the dollar that they can.
I like what you're talking about, front footing there, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. We all know that we've got to go to the doctor, prevention over cure, get that flu jab, but do we actually do that in our businesses? Quite often I say to people, have you got a warrant of fitness for your business? And they look at me going, what, the government's implemented a warrant of fitness? And I go, no, they haven't. It's just a necessity. You go and get a warrant of fitness for your car to make sure it's, roadworthy. What are you doing for your business to make sure that, your business is actually business worthy, So, the other day I was just saying to you about how I was out with one of my clients and did a spontaneous fire drill. Obviously it wasn't to look at the failing, but look at the opportunities of what we could actually learn from what we needed to do from that. And they need to be spontaneous. They need to be tested. Like you said, it's not the if, it's the when, and the when could happen anytime. And if we test it and have them in place, then we prevent that chaos. Another thing that we were talking about beforehand is, the perception that business continuity plans is a health and safety plan. And we just had a bit of a discussion about that before we came on here. So what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, these plans are an integral part of your business now. It's, it is, I'll keep repeating myself. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And natural disasters happen, business continuity. I mean, just like what you said with fires. I mean, we saw a fire in Wellington and how that actually changed lives of many individuals down there. So things happen, and this is in the new modern business world. But when you actually look back at it, it hasn't changed. For businesses, it's just that now it's become a lot more involved as more and more of us are getting online and doing things. So we're not having to just worry about bricks and mortar problems. We're actually having to worry about online problems and cybersecurity and lots of health and safety issues that come around with different aspects of it. So yeah, it's an ongoing challenge.
Oh, absolutely. And I guess a big one for this year is around fiscal management. How do you manage your cash flows when, obviously the funders are going to be looking for a lot more detail of viability and serviceability around any future borrowing that are going to be required. And, that's quite scary for a lot of people. A lot of people were right to the line with coming out of COVID, and now we need to, borrow some money. Obviously, interest rates are going to be higher, and the criteria is stricter. But I'm glad that you talked about cybersecurity, because business continuity plans is an overarching, should be an overarching commitment that is in all businesses across all aspects of the business. So from IT, fiscal management, even in sales, you should have a business continuity plan if you lose a client or a client happens to go into liquidation, which seems to be very much topical at the moment. Just reading on Facebook about somebody saying, I've got some money to pay my wedding off and it's not till November. What do I do? Do I pay it now, or do I run the roulette wheel of perhaps losing my money? And that's a real feeling that people have got right now, is that whole risk factor. So if we just talk about that for a minute, when curveballs happens in business, the impact I've seen becomes a real domino effect to many. It affects the staff, the clients, potential clients, your reputation, business information, and so on and so on. Disaster recovery and business continuity plans today are more important than ever. So I know you don't have a crystal ball, Kirit, but what is the risk of a disaster or crisis occurring for business owners right now?
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, yes, there's no one with a crystal ball at the moment, Catherine, and I'm no exception to it. The risk of a disaster and a crisis is always present in any business owner's life on a daily basis. And for that matter, one needs to prepare for it as an overarching thing. It needs to happen because a crisis will happen at some stage of a business owner's life. And when you think about it, it will cause disruption to operations, loss of intellectual property, proprietary information, reputation harm, all leading to a financial loss at the end, because time is money, is what we know. So the risk is always there. How a business manages this, and it depends on the risk management plan that they put in place. And in businesses, the crisis management plan overlaps the risk management in the organization, which they use both to go together, but you can't get it wrong. And there needs to be a process put in place, because risk management focuses on how to prevent the crisis, while crisis management emphasizes on how to react to it. So these are two different aspects to it. So it's actually quite important that business owners are prepared for it.
You just took the words right out of my mouth. I had on my script here, I was kind of prepared for this, and I've got prevention and how to react. So great minds think alike. I guess at the end of the day, many business owners, they get so many terminologies thrown their way, and we need to kind of take it back to really simple terms. What is it that we actually need to do? And I always say to people, what can you afford not to lose? And start with that. And mitigate it, and so that whole prevention thing is so important. I was actually just talking to Jane from the EMA yesterday, and we were just talking about business continuity plans, because the EMA through Activate Tamaki Makaurau is running business continuity plans across Auckland, which I'm facilitating some of the courses for.
Nice.
And
Excellent.
yeah, look, it's great, and it's trying to get as many businesses across it as possible, but at the end of the day, also wrapping around the accountability aspect of it, which, as you and I both know, you can go in and help a business, but it's what they do when you leave, which is important. And sometimes they get so busy in the trenches again, it's really hard to kind of drag them back out. So that accountability piece is so important. But we were just talking about, I raised a subject about most people don't see how important their health is in a business. And if you take yourself out of the business, who's going to run that business? So things like key person insurance, just really looking at how do I mitigate that risk? It might seem like an expense in a business, but in the same way you go and insure your house, why would you not insure yourself? So, the whole prevention and how to react is really important. So just correct, what examples of risk management would you see as being key right now in business?
You're right, Catherine. Health is wealth. So looking after your health is absolute priority. I just had a meeting with a client yesterday morning, and he just said that I've got to keep going. I can't really worry about health, but he had pains around his chest and everything else. And I said, no, you've got to actually go over. And he said, yeah, in fact, I've actually booked in with the doctors later on this afternoon. And the way it looks like I'm going to be in hospital for the next 3 days. So what plans has that business owner got when he's going to be in hospital for the next 3 days? Who's going to be doing his week? What are the things that are absolutely urgent that needs attending within those 3 days and so forth? So, the main risk management these days, it's all hand in hand together with health, wealth. And as you know, the main risk management for a lot of small to medium-sized businesses these days is cash flow. Right? We've always heard that cash is king.
Yeah.
And in the current economic climate, that is more important than ever to ensure that you are front-footing the problem as far as cash is concerned, because there's inflation, there's rising risk of things not getting done on time, which is going to then cost you money. So you've got to look at every aspect of business and managing that cash flow risk by looking at reducing your expenses, looking at your margin, looking at your debtors collection days, having an effective debtors collection policy, because a lot of businesses don't even have a debtors collection policy to say, when is the right time to pick up the phone and start talking to your customer to say, hey, I've provided good service to you, I've provided you with the goods, why haven't I got paid for it? What's holding it up? They're not front-footing the problem, and they just think that, because he or she is a mate or possibly, a colleague, it will actually give us the money when the time is right. But the business owner cannot afford to do that because they've got their own bills to pay, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, so you just can't afford to let things lie. You've got to, take the bulls by the horn and make it happen.
Yeah, look, it comes back to that whole domino effect, and sadly, we see a lot of people, especially trade, and they're good at building and they're good at doing electrical work, but they're still doing things, just with an invoice and no terms of trade and not a lot to fall back on. And obviously, if you're an unsecured creditor, in most cases, that's really tough on these little companies compared to the big companies. And obviously, first in line being IRD banks or funders, and also payroll. You sit right down. So it's really important that you not only have good terms of trade, but you also actually understand your customer, and you understand, you get alongside them and understand where they're at, because you don't get that element of surprise of, things are not that great. So I'm really glad that you raised that whole fiscal management and talking about cash flow planning. A lot of people do the cash flow forecast, which is equally important. Like, you've got to be able to understand what expenses you've got coming up to know what sales you need, and if you're not going to get those sales, where can you trim that fat down? Like, that's called lean management, and it's the first priority. You've got to actually make sure that you front foot that so it doesn't spiral out of control. I guess for me, I'm still seeing a slow uptake in business owners understanding the need to commit to prevention, which is obviously risk management, and then test that, which is, the crisis management aspect of it to mitigate the reaction. In your opinion, Kirit, is there a slow uptake or still a she'll be right attitude, or even a response, which I hear all the time, my accountant knows?
Yeah, yes, happens all the time. I mean, most business owners are quite relaxed, when it comes to running their life in the way that they would want to do so. They would continue to enjoy all the luxuries of life, doesn't matter whether the business is up or down and which part of the cycle it is in. And most actually leave every day as it comes. However, the successful business owners are the ones who've actually taken the opportunity to do something different in these difficult conditions and have risk and crisis management plans in place, because those are the ones who actually excel when a crisis does happen. And my accountant knows, the accountant only knows what you actually tell them, what you actually like them to know, because the accountant is doing their normal job on a day-to-day basis. And if you're not interacting with them on a regular basis, and it's just an end of the year accounts and tax returns job, the accountant will not know. And then sometimes if the accountant's not proactive and he's preparing your accounts 9 months away from the balance date, he's telling you a story of the past, not of the present, which means that they will not actually know where you're at. So yeah, every business owner has got to take on their own responsibility. And as you said, she'll be all right attitude is always prevalent in most of the business owners. But in the current economic climate, when you've got a lot of uncertainty, when you've got natural disasters, etc., all happening, and items out of your control, you just want to make sure that you are front-footing the problems and making sure that you do have risk management plans in place.
Yeah, and just coming back to what you're talking about with crisis management, I mean, there's the 4 Ps that we all know about, and some people don't know about. So I'll kick off with the ones that I tend to work a lot in, and you can kick off with the ones that you work a lot in. And so my priority always is the people, so when there's a crisis and we're testing a crisis, my priority is the people. Are we communicating with them? Do we know where they are? Have they got the support? Do they need tools of trade or just support? So without people, we don't have a business. And I remember Charlotte Lockhart talking at our business forum last year, and she said, we borrow people from their lives to come and work in the business. So it's really important we look after the people. The other thing is, when I'm talking to people at the moment, is, when we've got that fear factor around, reduced sales. What are you doing to position yourselves better? Where are the opportunities? What are the sweet spots that other people are not doing? Are you out there marketing when other people aren't marketing? Are you looking at, collaborative partnerships that you can do with people? So that's really important in a crisis, is how can we collaborate together? And how do we get our people, how do we communicate with them? How do we know that they're fine? The 2 things that you work on, the other 2 Ps, are pretty prevalent. But what were your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so the other 2 Ps that I work with, the first one is positive cash flow. As I mentioned, it's a critical focus to manage debt. This is not a time to go out there and get more debt if the debt is not income producing. So what I mean by that is, if you're actually borrowing money to go and buy a Lamborghini and that Lamborghini is not earning you money, it's the wrong thing to do in the current economic climate. But if you are actually borrowing money to get new product lines in, and you've got demand for those product lines, those are the areas that you want to focus and put your energies on, because cash flow management is quite important. And I've always advocated for businesses to have budgets in place right before the beginning of the financial year. Those budgets need to be backed in with a cash flow 3-way model, where you are actually looking at the cash impact, because people generally say, oh, my profit and loss is my cash flow statement. It's generally not, because if you're sending an invoice to your customer today, and if they're paying you on the 20th of the following month, then it's not cash in the bank on the day you raise the invoice. So it is quite important to manage that. Together with that, the tax payments come through, managing for the tax, making sure that you've got enough money set aside for that. Yeah, that whole positive cash flow thing is quite important so that you don't fall behind in meeting any of your supplier commitments, any tax commitments, right? Any life commitments like mortgages, etc. So that is the other P, being having the positivity and the cash flow. And then the other one is, we know, is practices, right? All of this is all about managing the transparency and the operating strategy that comes behind that. So nothing just happens overnight. A successful business is not successful because, you know, it just had a product and it just went out for it. A successful business is all about having strategies in place, and it's all about having the transparency and the marketing and everything that backs into it to get to, and ensuring that if your business does have the right practices and has got the right systems behind it and the processes, then it will be able to deliver, and it will be able to consistently deliver on its promises, because a lot of businesses fail in that respect, because they may deliver one day and the other day they will actually come back and say, oh, what's happened, you know, why hasn't this happened? And things like that. So, yeah, positive cash flow and practices, the other two P's, very important.
Yeah, well, thank you for elaborating on that, because it's actually really important to get the narrative behind the P's, because without the narrative, people do look at the cash flow as just being profit and loss, and they see, oh, I made a profit, but the money in the bank's very different. And it's actually being able to understand how to read your financial information, but also to bring experts in to help you, because you might be good at what you do in running your business or knowing your product or your service, but having the extra curriculum of people, experts that can help you, it will be the difference of, whether you make it or don't make it in some respects. So if we just talk about, dare I say it, those dreaded years in COVID, we had many businesses who worked hard on preparing business continuity plans and recovery planning and implementation. In fact, those businesses became more aware that this is not a one-time game changer, but a permanent requirement for business. As I said before, it's a bit like a warrant of fitness. The plan includes a regular review, looking at risk mitigation, by planning, and then, doing like those earthquake drills that we used to do at school. At the Engine, we encourage business owners to work collaboratively with their staff to raise awareness, build and test plans, and deliver strong engagement at the time of any crisis. When you involve your people, you get that buy-in and you get that engagement. So what other advice do you have around that, Kirit, in terms of getting your people involved?
Your people are your biggest assets, so you just need to make sure that you've got them involved in every stage of the business. So whether it's small things as trying to go for what should our brand logo look like, and getting their input on the company values and their mission statements, visions, etc., all the way up till the end delivery of the service or the goods to the businesses involved in, and then the after service impact as well. So it's a whole big continuous chain, and your people are absolutely vital, because they are the assets that are going to actually generate the revenue for you. So looking after them, making sure that you are doing everything that you can to mitigate any risk that they would be facing during this process, and ensuring that they get rewarded, because we have always been a huge on rewarding our staff for helping us get to where we get to, and that's no exception for any other business. So I think people should actually reward people for what they are, and it should be done fairly. So very important.
Absolutely. I was actually just talking to you before we came on about the worldwide trends that are happening at the moment, and it actually kind of warmed my heart actually just reading this. But in Fukushima, the care providers have compulsory business continuity planning that has to be implemented in rest homes by April 2024. And many of them are falling behind because obviously we've got a worldwide staff shortage in nurses and medical. And, what I always say to businesses is, if you want to get this done and do it right, get experts to come in. And so what these places are doing is they're getting consultants to come in and deliver on what they need to what needs to happen by that day. And so, you know, as I say before, if you can't afford to lose something, understand that you might need to put your hand in your pocket to be able to, you know, deliver on what you need. But, you know, business continuity planning is going to be something that is going to be even more so important and compulsory in a lot of cases. I mean, we certainly see it in places like hospitality. You know, you've got to have you know, a food plan, and in other places you've got to have, you know, different types of plans. So it's really important that people understand how important this is. So just bearing in mind the time at the moment, probably need to look at wrapping this up. So let's look at what pools of wisdom do you have around risk management?
Yeah, prepare your business. Can't say anything bigger than that. Is that you need to make sure that you prepare your business for the different risks that you have. So if you know, it could be as simple as that if 80% of your revenue is coming from 2 clients, you need to go and diversify and find more customers. You can't rely on those 2 customers. You know, one of the things that I did for one of my clients pre-COVID is they were having a great business. They said, you know, lots of cash in the bank. They said, I want to go and buy a personal asset. You know, it was a form of a car, etc. He says, what's your advice? And I said to him, go and get an overdraft facility. He says, I don't need money. I've got money in the bank. And I said, for $6 a month, go and get an overdraft facility. And that was the best thing that he ever did, because when COVID came around and he had spent the money on the personal asset, and then when his significant customer went down, you know, guess what he relied on? He relied on that overdraft. So it's not about what you need now, it's what you would actually need in the future. So when the times are good, you would want to capitalize on it. And when the times are not, you need to make sure that you manage your risk well. And it's all about planning for the future now, not later.
Look, I had a similar conversation with a client the other day. He said, look, you know, he's got his head around about selling some assets. And he says, well, once I sell these assets, I'll pay off the IRD loan. And I said, no, leave the IRD loan over there. Go and speak to your accountant. I'm sure they'll say the same thing. But you've got something over there that's 0 interest and then going to be at a very low interest rate, versus if you actually need to get an overdraft or a loan, you know, you'll have to go through some hoops and you'll have a very high interest rate. So use that money where you need it as in working capital, and just leave the IRD. But I said, go and talk to the accountant. I'm not the accountant. I shouldn't be giving you financial advice, and I'm not giving you financial advice. But that would be my first thought, is just to really, you know, get expert advice around what you're going to do when you do come into some money. Just also, Kirit, what are 3 golden rules for crisis management from your point of view?
Prepare and make crisis readiness on an ongoing process. Can't emphasize enough of that. Secondly, is that when there is a crisis, get clear and accurate facts on the crisis as soon as possible, because, you know, and the important thing is don't feel shy. Go and get expert help straight away, because as business owners, you're trying to wear many different hats. You cannot actually do everything yourself. So when there is a crisis, get help straight away. And then once the crisis is over, learn from the crisis, and fix any underlying problems that it has revealed in your business, so that such a problem doesn't happen in the future. As we've always said, it's a case of when, not if.
Look, I can't agree. I mean, obviously, everything you said is absolutely on point, and you know, just get the right people working with you. You don't know what you don't know, and the reality is you do need expert help. So, Kirit, how do people get hold of you if they, you know, they resonate with what you're saying? And look, I have to say, he's a great guy. Company's a great company, Wayland, helping a lot of my clients and certainly helping me with my businesses. So, how do they get hold of you?
Yeah, sure. I've got an email address, kirit@www.auckland.co.nz. Google Walker Wayland, or Google my name. You wouldn't find too many Kirit Lals in Auckland. So, you know, you'll get my contact details out of that, on our office number 968 4440.
Awesome. Well, Kirit, thank you for your time this morning. The Engine is one of a handful of selected service providers to deliver the EMA's Disaster Will Strike Again and Get Prepared, which will be delivered around Auckland. I'll be delivering that at Alley Estate next Wednesday and at Business North Harbour on the 30th. Reach out now to us on 0986939990 to see how to register to attend one of the many 2-hour free business workshops, business continuity workshops. Gosh, you can tell I need to kind of have a drink of water too. I'm not used to doing this half-hour session.
Yeah.
Hey, look, have a wonderful day. Thank you again. And I know that whoever's going to watch this is going to get a lot to take away. And hopefully they pick up the phone and give you a call and give me a call and get that expert help. But have an awesome day. The sunshine is out.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, Catherine.
All right, take care now.